Everyone, welcome to what's today? January 29th Planning Board meeting. Please note this meeting is being made available to the public through an audio recording, which will be used to ensure an accurate record of the proceedings produced in the minutes of the meeting. All comments made in open session will be recorded. Board member Jim Nunes is participating via remote participation in accordance with requirements of 940 CMR 29.10 via speakerphone due to geographical distance, or all votes during this meeting will be made via roll call. Okay, up first, please bear with me, I forgot to bring glasses. Sorry. Our first item tonight is an informal discussion with Frank Sullivan and John Slujar.
Hajar, H-H-A-J-A-R.
Okay, what he said, regarding Tomasi Nursery location at 299 Oak Street, slight modification inside the facility and selling sheds on existing property. Who do we have here for that this evening?
Frank Sullivan.
Yeah, John.
Sure, if you'd like to come up.
I'll let Frank make the presentation.
Sure. And if whoever is speaking, as long as we're speaking into the microphone, just for the recording, it's not for in the room, but so our fans at home, because we have dozens of them, I'm sure, that love to watch us.
I watch it all the time.
Really? You're my fan then, huh?
Good evening. Thanks for taking your time to see us this evening. We came in, Sue was very helpful to get us into this first meeting. Myself and John Hajar just purchased Tomasi Nurseries back in June 20th. And if you've been by, it's a 74-year-old established business. We've been in the landscape business, Skinner Overlook, for 25 years. I've been in the landscape business 45 years. So the opportunity came up that Steve Tomasi, unfortunately, I knew Steve and Rick, the business was becoming for sale. And after negotiating, found out that Steve was, health was failing. So it became a sale of, if we didn't buy it, it was probably going to be knocked down and, something else there. So I've known Steve a long time, and unfortunately, I think we kind of bought it out of, our hearts rather than reality, because we didn't really need another place. But if you go by it, it's tired, it needs a facelift, and needs a lot of work, and there's a lot of things it never had. So we've kind of put together what I felt he would have had, like bins in the parking lot to sell product, and covered bins for certain materials you want to keep dry, like your mulch and your sand and salts. And we also, it's a large piece of property. They had a pond that was leaking. It was deteriorating. The fountain hadn't worked because 10 years ago they put a well in, and the well was for the water supply for the nursery stock. So when they first built there, back in the 80s, they would pump from a 1 gallon a minute well into the pond, and then from the pond, pump to the irrigation for the nursery stock. Well, that hasn't been used in 10 years. So I get in right away, being a dad of 3 girls, saying, wait a minute, this is unsafe. I can't have someone walking by with this 20-foot deep man-made pond. This has to go. So we've, since cleared that. We took 30 dumpsters out, because every landscaper in America just dumps all their brush and debris at the far end of the property and never remove it. So that's not how we run our office in Weymouth. We're very clean and neat. So we cleared that out, and in the process, we said, it's 6.2 acres. What can we do to get more foot traffic, because the business is dramatically down? So first thing we're looking at is adding Briggs Nursery, North Attleboro, as a coffee, pastry, bakery within the nursery. Tremendous foot traffic. Briggs Nursery is on 6 acres. It's very vibrant. It's a beautiful facility, and they're doing $12 million a year. Tomasi's doing $1.2 million on 6.2 acres. So really, not where it needs to be. So we've got 4 or 5 folks who've said we'd love to come in, run your coffee pastry shop. I think that would probably be, and that's why I'm here, a change of use, because it's going to be inside. We're not adding on to the building. It's going to be a piece. So I know the plumbing would be updated, which we would do, and we're looking at Rockwood Design, which I'm sure you're familiar with. My nephew works for them to do design work, but everything would be internal. But then on the outside, we would do outdoor seating, so people could come out. We would display our landscape seating walls, patios, so it would be actually a living display that you would sit at, and we feel it would be good. We've talked to Revive, we've talked to Lucky Finn, is very much interested. We have two others we spoke to, but they're all real high-end coffee, pastry, bakeries, gluten-free, allergy-free products, which is huge nowadays. So that's kind of the flair we're looking for. And we would then renovate the bathrooms that are to the far right side, and we would move those bathrooms to a neutral location. And then where the bathrooms are existing, that 12 feet would now become the cafeteria area because all the plumbing's there. So they would have a counter when you first walk in, the glass windows that are there. We would go out to a sliding door out to the patio area, be all landscaped. So, and again, if you look at Lucky Finn, we like that image. They're clean, they're neat, and I think that would help the foot traffic. The other thing we're looking to add immediately is Mikey DeCorno, longtime friend. Thank God he's out of the business because he was taking work from me for a long time because he used to landscape also. He's now been shaping sheds for the last number of years. His location in Whitman is now gone. We've been doing a lot of work the last 10 years. So we're looking, as you can see the schematics, put his sheds on our property and have that, which would be kind of where the pond was and near the sign, and have him displaying in that area. And then he would have his facilities inside our showroom to be able to see clients to sell his sheds out of there, which we also feel if I have a shed, I can put a walkway to it, I can have a patio around it, I can have landscaping around it. So it just showcases what we're doing, and it's, if you've been by Chapin Shed, he's probably one of the best sheds around. And high quality, first quality workmanship. Mike is probably one of the #1 gentlemen in the industry. When he was in the green industry, probably one of the best businessmen I've ever dealt with, and I've known Mike over 40 years. So when we came to me saying, Frank, if you're buying that, could I get in there and put my sheds on that property? And I think if landscaping, a shed is, you can tell that as a landscaper. I just didn't know, so I wanted to come in and say, here's what I'm looking to do. Here's a rendering of what I'm thinking of making it look. We are going to change fences because the front street side has chain link. We would like to make that white picket, re-landscape. So it's things that we would want to do to make it more attractive to come in. Because if you drive by now, it is not really attractive. We don't look like you'd want me to work in your yard. So we have to do those things. And then there's other things that I think the question would be, I looked at way back, the permitting he had. I know there's ample parking on that site because they never used it fully. But I don't know if you add a cafe, how many spaces I need for that 1,500 square foot of area. Mm-hmm. I was told it's like 7, one per every 150 or something. So, but I know I have ample. On my drawing, we're showing 40, and really the scale she's off, it's really, those are 15s. There would be 15 spots, not 10. So those would be 60 spots I have right now without even creating any more. That is ample there I could make. We would look to talk to, and I don't know if it was a requirement way back, and I looked at all the minutes I got when I bought the property. He didn't pave the upper commercial part. It's all crushed stone, and so if we have to use chip stone, we would, but if I could pave the parking, we would like to. I just don't know if that's not, they wouldn't allow that because of drainage, but all the drains are there, and we talked to Taylor, who did the surveying for me, said, all the infrastructure's here, Frank, they maybe just didn't pay back in those days in the 80s. It was, garden centers were just crushed stone, cost-wise. Mm-hmm. So that would be something I think would be neater if I'm walking into a store. I would rather walk in with pavement under my feet than crushed stone and mud in a rainy day. And other than that, bins, I don't know if there's a requirement. Most landscapers, they do block walls. We would want to do veneer block walls because we do stonework. So if you drove by and saw my wall, I'd want it to look attractive from the street. The front main entrance ones we would keep lower so that they're not blocking views. But my taller bins would be going towards the doggy daycare side, which is blocking nothing but, the doggy daycare next door. But I know when in Braintree, where I come from, our buildings were hoop houses, and they're considered temporary structures. So the permitting is you can build right to the lot line because it's temporary. Where I am in Weymouth, we have bins, but we have shed roofs on the top of them. And again, they're considered temporary structure, because then any time I could take it down, which they went up for the 3 years I've been there. They've never been, so I don't know what the requirement is, but that's why I'm in front of you to ask those types of questions too, because we want it neat, clean, so when someone pulls in, they want to be like, wow, that's organized and it's neat, it's dry. You know, like we've had dry loom now for 25 years. And in New England, it rains all the time in April and May. So you got a rain day, the next day I've got dry loom because it's undercover. So if I want to service the local landscapers, you have to have dry loom. And the same way we have dry mulch in my two biggest bins. You know, the browns and the blacks, which we use the most of, we keep covered because we have a bark blower. And if the mulch gets wet, it slows down the time blowing the mulch. And right now, if we can speed the labor up, which is tough to get labor.
And they don't have mulch and such on property before, did they?
They did, but it was way down the other end. So that you had to drive through, can I show? You had to drive through the whole property to get to the bins all the way down here. So we're trying to get it so that the bins would be down here, so when a customer comes in, they get their mulch and leave. If they want to get nursery stock, presently there's a gate here, we'd like you to go in this gate and then leave from the existing other structure they have. There's a separate entrance here they've never used. We want to landscape that, put stone walls, and make that the secondary entrance to come out during the day.
So that's a curb cut that already
It's
exists?
already existing, there's already a fence there,
Okay.
there's already a double gate. They use it presently just for delivery trucks.
We're not looking for any more curb cuts. correct?
No curb cuts, no curb cuts.
Okay. So you're in Business B. I think you're making some significant changes here, all good. Excellent, by the way. It's probably gonna need a new site plan.
Yep. And
And
that's what Phil Baker, he would engage on his plan. Is it Taylor?
Steinbeck and Taylor?
Steinbeck and Taylor, yeah.
Okay.
That's who they engage.
Okay,
And Phil's my nephew, but he said that's who, and he did the preliminary for me, come out and was kind of saying, this is good. My landscape architect did this plan.
so while you're doing the site plan with us, you'll need to go to the ZBA for a special permit for outdoor display of goods. And you'd get that for both your Chapin sheds. You'd also need a special permit for restaurant, okay, for the cafe. But you can do that concurrent with the site plan work with us.
Okay.
I'm interested in the tenant area. Tell me a little bit more about that.
We're not looking to do, that was just on our plan because we were trying to see if we could rent some space down the far end. Right now, we have no one looking at
Gotcha.
it.
Okay,
And I think if we're down here, our trucks are gonna go here. What's happening now is Skinner Overlook is on 2 acres in Weymouth. We moved from Braintree to Weymouth, beautiful facility, but we have 3 years left on our lease. So we're throwing away $20,000 a month up there.
yeah,
So when this came available, that was another reason.
yeah.
So, but if you've been in the garage, is that Tomasi? And there's no ceiling, it's insulation falling down. So we have, you know, probably $750,000 worth of renovations
Sure.
just to fix the existing building. It's
Yeah.
not falling down, it's just, they never finished the ceiling.
It needs work.
So it just
So
has
that,
to be renovated.
so that area, if you got another tenant there and then we're gonna do something, probably would require a different site plan because you don't know what the use is, you don't know any of that yet. Okay, that's fine. You got a fence also delineating it, right?
No, it's all wide open space now, but we would try to, and they have their own gate with a curb cut already.
Okay,
So we looked at, but again, we're really looked at, we don't want to be 12 businesses there. We're trying to be a lifestyle business where you come in,
Yep.
you have all your nursery stock, all your product you can buy. You
yeah,
can get a coffee, a pastry.
yeah,
We're talking to folks that come in, because the garden center is a ghost town. So we have folks that used to work for, you know, Home Goods, and now like, we could come in and give you a little flair.
yeah,
That's what we're trying to become. So that far end to me isn't, we've had a tremendous amount of tree guys want to come in. Probably the worst guys in the business. They just leave logs and debris and
Right.
chips and they don't clean it.
If you could screen it
If you
properly.
get the right person in there, that's
well, that's a different site plan, right? We probably would require some screening or something for that.
correct.
You
Yep.
said there's a special permit required for outdoor display products and one other reason,
Yes, restaurant use.
restaurant.
The restaurant.
And you can go to the ZBA concurrent with putting the site plan together with us. But you're adding some, and again, your question about the paving and the,
Parking.
right, so all the parking issues will be covered in the site plan. Any impervious you put down, surfaces that you put down will have to be looked at for stormwater management. And same with your roofs over your, bins, right? Because that's going to provide some runoff.
Right, and adding the sheds
Yeah.
there and things, like all of that is gonna add additional runoff. So we
Yeah, and the whole
would,
shed area is always questionable. So there's no, so
Well,
everything's gonna drain.
Yeah, but while you're doing the engineering, you're going to determine all that based on the stormwater calculations.
He'll
So
do that for us.
that'll be part of the site plan.
Okay.
Well, it looks good.
yeah, it was great.
Looks better already. I noticed it was all
Yeah.
cleaned up down that whole end.
Well,
Dirty
That
dumpsters.
it was
massive
my
pile.
favorite nursery, so, gotta be.
We hope to restore it to a, favorite place in town and, make it, see that it reaches its potential.
No, that's great.
It's far from it right now, but we're
Yeah,
dedicated
we're
to
excited
getting
about it. It's a
there.
great piece of property. It's a great area and,
Great location.
yeah, and Steve was being approached by, every car dealership.
Yep.
Steve did not want a car dealership. He was adamant that I want this to remain a nursery. It's been 74 years. And I grew up in Braintree. His father was Plain Street, which I knew very well. And their first building was they rented from Frank Messina, the big developer from Braintree. And then that was his very first place. And then they moved from there to Main Street Hingham, and then finally Main Street Hingham down to where they are in Pembroke, because Hingham said, you can't have trucks going in and out anymore. Because in the beginning, they just sold nursery stock. As it evolved, he had to do installs. So when I met Steve for the first time, he's like, wow, you have my whole history. So-
Oh, and it's in Business District B, and if you want the bylaw language around that,
Okay,
you can
great.
ta- you
Thank
can
you.
take that.
So what we're looking at, it doesn't look like anything other than you get Phil Baker to get on board with that, and they would do everything they need to satisfy.
Yeah, so you do a site plan, we approve the site plan, give you an order of conditions, and you're on your way. And if you get the special permits, you can do that with the ZBA.
So how often does the planning board meet to review a site plan?
We meet every 2 weeks.
Every 2 weeks? So it's just a function of how soon our engineer can draft the site plan?
Yeah, we'll have to have a public hearing as well.
Okay.
Public hearing and then peer review, so the town, we'll have our engineers review everything. So there's a little bit back and forth, but it can move quickly
Yeah.
if your engineer is able to move quickly.
And we'll ask you to provide the money in the engineering account for the peer review.
And that's all through Ms. Sue.
Perfect.
Very
No,
good.
I appreciate taking your time. We came in, she said, come in, stop first rather than file, and at least get it. So I'm very excited that
Yeah, appreciate the
you gave us the time and the feedback, and we were able to present tonight, and, it looks like we're moving forward with the engineer to do what we're asking him to do.
Yeah, and we
And-
definitely appreciate what you're doing, it looks great.
Yeah, looks great.
All right,
Thank you very much.
thank you. Thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you. I'll be in touch.
Okay, up next, we have an informal discussion on signage for SP2-23 self-storage facility on Old Church Street. Decision documents state all signage must be submitted to the board and approved by the board. So, hello, welcome back. Please
there.
tell us who you are again, just for the record.
Dave Williams from STG Development, for the record. I was here in March. We went through the approval process for the self-storage that's under construction now over on Old Church Street. We're moving along. When we went through the process, you may remember there was some discussion about outside look, color, and signage. I think the discussion went, we want to make sure there's no inflatable locks on the back of the building, no flashing signs. So although signage is approved by the building department, you want us to come back in front and show. So,
Yes.
so I'm here tonight to do that. I did meet with Mr. Berry, walk through what we wanted to do. Everything seemed in order except for the location of the pylon sign that I talked to him about. And I found another place that would meet setbacks and all of that sort of thing. So I have my signage people put these together.
Oh, great, thank you.
So that first page is a site plan which identifies where we're looking to put signage. The locations are very similar to what we had on the drawings that we presented when we got approval. The difference is, if you look on page 3, the front of the building, the extra space storage sign was a little bit to the left. But we slid it over to the right. It had to do with once the building's up and you get a chance to go around and see what's visible and what not. We thought it was a little bit more visible. Same plane of the building, just a little bit to the right. And then on the back of the building, during our hearing, the drawings showed a sign in the upper right-hand corner above the windows. And we moved that down the building where it's visible from the highway. Again, once the building's up and you can see where vegetation is and what's visible and what's not. So we were looking at putting that sign lower.
And that's sign 5? Is that what you're saying?
Yes, sign 5.
Okay.
And the other ones are in the same location. These are, Extra Space is our partner. It follows their branding and whatnot. I think the green in this drawing is just a little bit off, but these are all internally illuminated channel letter signs that are all wall mounted.
Looks good.
Yeah, looks great.
Nothing's flashing.
Nothing's flashing?
No inflatable lights.
No giant bugs or anything like that.
Looks good.
Looks great.
So this is the pylon location, or this is gonna move?
Um,
Sign 7?
The pylons at the entrance.
So we ended up going to the zoning board to get a variance to change the front setback from 60 to 15 feet. So it's beyond the 15 feet, but it's in the island at the front of the location. That's what we're looking to do.
Looks good.
Looks good. Is Jim playing cards on there or something? Sounds like he's shuffling. Looks good to me. Loading.
So those are small signs, one over the loading area at the front of the building and one over the office, just more identification signs.
Okay. Is there going to be any signage at the back entry? I know where you had the bays.
No,
No?
there is
Okay.
not. There's one on the building, but there's no pylon
No
sign
pylons or
like
anything?
that.
Okay.
No.
Okay. Does anybody see anything? Questions, comments, concerns? No, I think it looks good. I don't think we have any problems with anything. Anyone?
No, looks great.
Okay.
So we, yeah,
It's
looks
the same
great.
package that I'm looking to submit to the building department. I don't know what the process is, because I know the approval said I needed to come back for an approval. I know we had talked in the meeting about coming and seeing, make sure it's consistent with what we talked about. So
Yeah,
am
Yeah,
I good
that's
to go to
fine.
the building department?
absolutely.
Absolutely.
Great.
Go right ahead and
All right.
if they have any questions, I'm sure they can ask Sue
That's-
or
yeah.
their neighbor in the
Okay.
conservation.
That's where you get your official approval, is going to be with the building
Yes,
inspector, so.
right.
Yeah,
Okay,
and thank you for sharing this with us. We
Yeah, this is
appreciate
great.
it.
We appreciate it. It looks wonderful.
thank you, appreciate it.
And the building's come along nicely.
Yes, we hope
Yeah,
to
it's
open in
moving along.
June.
Yeah.
All right, thank you for your
Thank
time.
you.
Thanks.
Appreciate it.
There's a lot of temporary lights in that structure right now.
I know.
My kids think it's like Christmas. all the
I know.
time. Yeah.
Alrighty. Up next, vote whether to return amount of $3,185.44 to an engineering review account for SP 5-20 cell tower at 85 Washington Street to the original applicant.
So the cell tower's all done, site plan's all
Yeah.
done, they got all their inspections, everything's complete.
Yeah, good to go.
Yeah.
Okay.
So I'll make a motion that we return the amount of $3,185.44, an engineering review account for SB 5-20 cell tower on 85 Washington Street to the original applicant.
Second.
Okay, roll call vote. Andy?
Yes.
Heather?
Yes.
Scott? Jim? And myself, yes. So moved, so we can return their funds. Okay.
Want to approve minutes while we have a minute?
Yep, thank you. You want to make a
Who wants to make a motion?
motion? Scott wants to make a
I'll
motion.
make a motion to approve the minutes from Monday, January 8th, 2024.
Second.
And Heather, second. Okay, roll call vote. Andy?
Yes.
Jim? Heather?
Yes.
Scott? And myself, yes. Minutes approved. Okay, is it 7:30?
Yeah, we're right there.
All right. Up next, we have public hearing for proposed site plan SP 3-22 and special permit for Country Club Cluster Housing Development to construct an age-qualified development consisting of 172 residential units, mostly single-family houses, accent drives, and interior roads, modifications to existing golf course, extensive landscaping, stormwater drainage, wastewater treatment plant, and other alterations to the property. About 244 acres located near West Elm Street and Dwelly Street, official address being 94 West Elm Street. Continued from September 12th, October 24th, and November 14th of 2022, January 30th, March 27th, May 22nd, August 7th, September 18th, November 13th, December 4th, December 18th of 2023. This is to be immediately continued to a future date with no discussion or testimony at this time, apart from the vote to extend the decision deadline. Whew. Okay, do I have a?
What dates do we have available for the
February
continuation?
12th at 7:30 PM.
Will they be ready on February 12th
Yep,
at 7:30 PM?
yep.
All right, I'll make a motion that we continue the public hearing for site plan SP 3-22 and special permits for the Country Club Cluster Housing to February 12th at 7:30 PM.
Second.
Heather, second. Okay, roll call vote. Andy?
Yes.
Jim? Yes. Heather?
Yes.
Scott? Yes. And myself, yes. So continued. Up next, we have the studious front row over here for a discussion about the update for the master plan committee. Welcome.
Ladies and gentlemen, hello, how are you?
Good, how are you, Steve? Please
Very
tell
good.
us who you are.
Oh, I'm Stephen Ciciotti, Vice Chair of the Pembroke Select Board. I also have some other members from the Master Plan Committee as well, some other stakeholders. Tracy Marino, who is also on the Select Board, Scott Chaharan, who is on the Historic District Commission, and also Sue Bollinger, Chair of the School Committee. So they're here also to help kind of answer some questions. So if it's okay, I'd like to start. I just kind of whipped up a quick little outline with like a vision statement and a few things. Figured I would read the vision statement, kind of give a high-level overview. And actually, while I'm doing that, I might as well, Scott, do you want to give your copy too? This is actually the October. This is an old copy I have here. He's got the December one. But just to, if you guys want to kind of glance through it while we'll kind of go through it.
Yeah, did you have it on the website, the master plan website?
So I'm going to get to that. It's not on the website yet, but I'm going to get to that as one of the upcoming items. So right off the bat, you guys have a copy of a couple of the old versions there. But in terms of the vision statement for the master plan, and it went through multiple iterations, talking to the different stakeholders, a little bit of input from VHB. Oh, sure. Yeah.
I can't read right now anyway. I've got my glasses, so.
Vision statement for the master plan is as follows. Located in the heart of the South Shore, the town of Pembroke will invest in its greatest assets and continue to be an excellent place to live. As a community rich in history and with a vibrant population, its distinct quality of life is rooted in its close-knit and welcoming culture. The town will be responsible stewards of the land, having long demonstrated a commitment to preserving and protecting its unique natural and open space resources. To enhance wellness, connectivity, and quality of life, the town will create community spaces, provide unique recreational amenities and events, and expand programming to services to improve residents' ability to lead active and healthy lives. Pembroke will enhance and encourage walkability and other non-motorized forms of transportation and will focus on creative placemaking. Citizens will continue to enjoy a feeling of safety and security throughout town, supported by modern and readily available emergency services. Young and growing families will be further provided with a quality education for their children. Seniors will benefit from a robust network of support systems and services. Throughout the year, Pembroke will conduct, support, or encourage various exhibits, events, and programming that preserves and celebrates its history and culture. Pembroke will support sustainable and mindful growth in strategic locations, encouraging residential development that responds to local housing needs and commercial development that strengthens the local economy and creates jobs. Hubs of activity like the town center and the Route 3 Commercial District will be enhanced to support a vibrant mixed-use environment for residents and visitors. There will be a visible improvement to Pembroke's public facilities, utilities, and services, and the town's boards will establish new protocols for effective communication and decision-making while considering their effects on future generations. So that's the vision statement as it stands for the Pembroke Master Plan. Beyond that, we currently have some upcoming items that are coming up. So I just got verification from VHB, Julie from VHB, which, by the way, VHB, the consultants that we hired to do the master plan, have been absolutely excellent. They've been very good to work with. They, listen to the customer very intently. They take our feedback, they work with us, and they help refine it down too. There was some hiccups, you could say, in the beginning in terms of establishing what the role of the master plan committee versus VHB was, but we got through that and established very clearly that the committee was really there to provide a high-level kind of view and input on what the master plan should do and be community engaged and so on and so forth. While VHB did a lot of the low-level lift details and kind of helping us with best practices. On January 30th, so this would be tomorrow, they've actually confirmed to me that they're going to upload the latest draft of the master plan to the www.pembroke-masterplan.com website for the public to review, obviously for yourselves to review. That'll be the latest edition. That includes even a few more updates that we've done since the last meeting that we've had. On February 6th, I have an interview with PAC TV and Julie Thompson about the master plan to do some Q&A with Julie Thompson, PAC TV, go over a little bit of our process, how far we've come and things around that, and that'll also be where we talk a little bit more about the upcoming public forum event, how the public can access the master plan through the PembrokeMasterPlan.com website, and more. On February 8th, we actually have our next master plan meeting, which follows the monthly cadence that we've had with that. And on February 29th, we thought that it was symbolic to do it on leap year. So on February 29th, we're going to have the public forum at the Pembroke Public Library at 6 p.m. Through 8 p.m. There'll be babysitting available with at least 7 stations, basically a station per chapter. VHB will attend, and it will be a hybrid meeting, so that way it'll be in person, and folks can attend remotely as well. And then in terms of the timeline, end of April or end of May is when we're expecting the final preparation, final plan preparation to be submitted by VHB. We would say that that's about on track. Technically, you could say it's a month a little bit later than the original schedule, but we started a month later, so it's actually on track, I would say. And that's where we are with things at this point in time. So, I mean, just so I'm not taking up all the time as well, I figure I'll step down and let maybe Tracy or one of the others kind of step up and answer some questions, and we can kind of do a round-robin thing if you like.
Sure.
Is that all right? Otherwise, I'll just take everybody's time, and I do enough talking in town, so.
We don't mind.
All right. Tracy, come on down.
Hi.
So you have a date for the final plan to be presented to the planning board for approval?
I don't think we have a date set in stone yet for that.
Okay.
Do you have a date that you have in mind?
No, I was just wondering if we wanted to set a date, but,
Maybe we should.
well,
Well, if you're saying April or
If
May, end of April or May.
well, I'd rather leave
completion.
it a little open, because if you have work to do, we want to give you the time to do it,
Right.
you know?
So, and I think we should get through the public forum first before we schedule
Yeah.
that. I think that would make the most sense. See how
Yeah,
that
we
turns
can be
out with
flexible with that.
information. Okay.
Can someone give me just a couple, like, major items that you've really kind of dug into in the master plan that have been major issues or bigger issues than others?
What did you say? Come on up.
I know in the sections in the historic district, circle chapters, and I think in the zoning, we got to mention ADUs, accessory dwellings, kind of looking in how to, the town would go about in the right way, allowing that.
Yeah,
As
that
a
has been a
separate-
very hot topic.
Yeah, well, we do allow accessory dwelling units, but they're in-laws, and they've
Yeah.
got some limitations, and
Yeah.
we've talked about it, and, we do want to revisit it. It would be really handy at some point to maybe get a list of things that would require zoning bylaw changes,
Yeah.
Okay.
just for us, because it would kind of, point us in the right direction on some of the places where some things may have to be changed, by town meeting, and require the public hearings to do so. And I know that the Center Protection District was something that was a big part of the last master
It's
plan,
mentioned.
which was 2004, 20
Yes.
years ago.
Yes,
And, there was a bylaw put through, and then we had some issues with the multi-use and some of that. And we can have a conversation about that sometime, just for the history of it. But we may want to revisit that. We ended the mixed use. I've had some recent conversations with some of the property owners in the center who are adjacent to what will be, the former fire department.
right.
And there could be some very good opportunities to open up some development opportunities right in the center of town. And taking a close look at the center, protection district bylaw,
It's mentioned that it
Yeah.
needs to be reviewed.
Yep.
Yeah.
I think needs to happen. And then the ADUs as well.
Yeah, and also the historic district with the ADUs too, allowing it under the bylaw, the HDC, that bylaw, it would have to be changed.
Okay,
Yeah,
So a list would be helpful.
yeah.
yeah, it'd be super helpful.
Okay.
Absolutely. And then, and some of the other major things, other than ADUs?
I'm trying to think.
I'm asking, I haven't had a chance to read through it all.
Yeah.
And
Go ahead.
How
it can be
about-
like a round robin up here,
Yeah.
but just
Sure.
keeping it on so
Eh,
people
eh.
can hear.
So the kind of
But-
format that we went through, and you might be able to see it a little bit as you're kind of going through some of the drafts that we have here, is there's, for example, Select Board, we had our kind of goals and priorities that we did, and there's a whole bunch more than the goals and priorities that we did that are in the master plan. But each chapter has its own set of goals, for example. And then from there, there's recommended actions, there's maybe some best practices as well. So from that is going to be, a lot of where I think people, especially as yourselves, when you look at the master plan, when it's uploaded, the latest edition, be able to see, hey, which of these are going to require some kind of zoning bylaw changes, which of these are going to be more policy changes. There's a lot of stuff in there for the different chapters. So there's a lot of great ideas that all the different stakeholders kind of came up with. We had a lot of good conversations with people in town. And we put a lot of it into the master plan. I know once it's done, we're gonna take the baby that we put together and give it over, but,
Well, I
we look
asked
forward
you
to
because
that.
I'm meeting with the Community Economic Development Committee on the 7th. So it's our first meeting that we have a Pembroke representative there for, I guess, in a number of years. So I just want to make sure if there's different things, and he was, the chair or the person running the committee was very excited to know that we were updating our master plan, and there's a couple other towns as well. So I just want to make sure if there's something that I can jump us in on that, would not, like, you guys are still working on it, so I'm like, I'm not the world's
At the
best
old
reader, so
colony.
I tend to wait till it's finished before I read it, I won't lie.
Is it the Old Colony Planning Council?
Yeah, it's, from the old, yes, so now I'm sitting on the SEEDS, whatever they want to call it, Community Academic.
Great.
Along those
Development.
lines,
provide a lot of
we actually
resources.
had an economic development roundtable with some area businesses, and asked them a lot of questions about, what was important to try to get businesses in town. And it was sort of, a lot of people said it was very difficult to, like, they found the whole process coming to Pembroke very difficult, different bylaws and fees. Even the fees are like more expensive here, and the communications between departments was very difficult. So those are some of the things that we,
It's the department communication.
yeah, the department communication and how can we fix that, you know.
More so than other towns?
More so than other towns, yes. And so, that's preventing people from, like, even approaching us with, they can't really get off the ground, so. Thoughts?
Yeah.
Want
No.
to add to that?
No, yeah, I mean, that's, like you mentioned about the Center Protection District as well. That's something that we talked a lot about, that it needs to be looked at. Even like VHB, when they looked at the situation, they were like, yeah, there's a lot of restrictions here that make it really difficult to really develop a center of town in a meaningful and productive way. So, yeah, that's definitely in there. We've got a whole bunch of things like that that we're looking at. We're looking at, you know, connecting trails, for example, providing a better network for the trails, better wayfinding and placemaking as well. Wayfinding being like maybe more signs around town, say, hey, if you want to get here, go in this direction, follow this trail, or follow that street for the major kind of highlights in town.
Yeah, it would be nice if we could have a way to connect those trails. And we have a lot of opportunity because we have town-owned land that connect a lot of that.
We do.
Yep.
One of the things is trying to think of how we can kind of pair up recreation with conservation with open space and kind of get a programmatic approach through rec to do some of that. Where do we find the money? You know, we have the open space and recreation plan. It's got to be finally approved by the state, but once we have that finally approved, there's definitely opportunities to apply for some grants in those areas. Well, I think we really need a more coordinated rec, conservation, open space kind of effort in that, because they can put the programs together, and then we need to find a way to kind of maintain, you know, trails and things like that. And we're doing it purely on a voluntary basis now.
Right.
And
We talked
it
a lot
doesn't,
about- We talked a
it
lot
doesn't
about the
work.
trails having no maintenance plan, there's nobody who's really responsible for them.
Yeah.
We talked about doing other towns have like a recreation trail committee, something similar to that,
Yeah.
where it's, again, it's volunteers who are cleaning the trails, but nobody's actually really assigned to deal with our trails.
Right.
DPW deals with, you know, grass and some open space mowing and things, but nobody actually maintains those, which just means they're not getting connected to one another either.
they're not being maintained. I mean, we have from the senior tax abatement program, we have a great guy who comes in and does work.
Chris?
No, Jim Sace,
Oh, yeah, okay. Yeah.
and he's great, but, you know, he's one guy.
Well, that's the thing, and so open space kind of took ownership of maybe doing some trail cleanings, but it really depends on who's on the committee at the time and who has time, but it really isn't our forte, but.
Well, we don't have a professional role anywhere to
No, we
kind of
just
do that.
Do it as a community.
But we do have people in roles that can be part of it, right? So we have a director of rec who may be very interested in getting a program together that would leverage the trails.
I'm sure he would
And so
love
if we
that.
can, you know, put that kind of thinking behind it, we may end up with, you know, more effort towards getting the trails done.
Yeah, kind of one thing that we talked a lot about too, and something that we've talked about on the select board also is better consolidation.
Right.
You know, eliminating a lot of the kind of, not just the gaps in process, but the gaps of ownership, but also kind of streamlining things, eliminating a lot of the gates and red tape that are just unnecessary.
Yep.
Starting to kind of professionalize our government a little bit more, streamline it. We've got the bylaw review subcommittee, which is there to help kind of clean up some of the bylaws
Right.
and whatnot as well. So all these things are mentioned in the master plan, because some of them, like you got the bylaw review, but oftentimes there's a bylaw review subcommittee and it comes up and then it goes away and not a whole lot is done with it. So it could be an ongoing thing.
Yeah.
There's a
and
lot
the-
of stuff like that.
And the other effort to get more of the folks who actually work in town to be on some of these committees as part of, you know, the governance, if you will, because they do have skin in the game.
Yeah.
And they know what resources are available, where, you know, a lot of at-large citizens don't know what's available, you know, and the folks who work in this building every day know what's going on. So they know where the, you know, the resources are, or where the, you know, the lack of resources is. Maybe focus on finding a way to get them. So,
Yeah. One other thing, a couple things that have come up a couple times. So for example, it was mentioned on the select board, there was a suggestion, there was a question as to whether there was a need for this to go to town meeting, but it sounds like that may not be the case. And so
Yeah,
just having that final clarification that, okay, definitely not needed.
Not
You guys
needed.
can be the ones that goes to you and you
Yep.
decide whether it's good or not.
yep.
And then
It's
that's
Mass
it.
General Law, I think it's Chapter 82.
Okay. And then there is like an open question, and we're talking with VHB about best practices, and they're kind of suggesting some things, but we want to investigate a little bit more around the implementation of the master plan. So obviously, like you mentioned, the old community development plan, the old master plan from 20, 25 years ago, kind of unfortunately sat on a shelf and collected dust.
Well, I'm going to say no.
Not entirely, it's true.
If you go through it, there
That
was
is-
a lot done with that master plan. It
Yeah.
didn't just sit on the shelf. I mean, it was addressed. I think a lot of that stuff was in the pipeline when the master plan was being written. So a lot of it was already, starting to happen, but a lot of things did happen because of that master
Police
plan.
department and fire department, you could read it, and they were like at 50% of what they needed to be,
Yep.
both of them.
Yep.
And, it's 20 years, now we're 20 years down the road, and we're finally getting.
No, we knew we needed a new community center for
Yep.
30 years.
Yeah.
So, we kicked that can down the road. And I think we did it the same with, with public safety buildings. We kicked that can down the road. So,
Yeah, in the master plan, there's, the community development plan is referenced many times, and actually talks about, hey, here are some of the goals that are from that, this was what was accomplished from it, this was what was left open, so a lot of the goals that were there, that makes sense still for now, they were kind of brought over, which is nice. But yeah, there was a lot of items that kind of, maybe they floated up and went through different iterations and fell aside, or a lot of other things kind of fell aside for whatever reason too. And to the extent that it went on a shelf, like a lot of people, we have a community development, do we have a master plan? Yeah, we have, but it's like, it's this old, like, it's kind of became this legendary thing, as opposed to something that maybe the different boards and committees should be intimately familiar with, at least for their own chapter. And so that it can become more of the part of the culture of the government, instead of, something that we did, that we accomplished, and people like yourself put a lot of good work into, and there's good stuff in there that we took into the master plan, that VHB took into the master plan, but it needs to be part of the culture and not out of sight, out of mind.
well, the other thing too is like, local government doesn't control everything that's in the master plan. I mean, the market's going to respond to things.
Yeah.
And we don't have a really good mechanism for letting developers know about our, what can be done, right? So, we need to be able to bridge that gap as well on the economic development side. We should be talking to people who want to take an opportunity here in Pembroke. I mean, it usually falls in our laps, like the big Y just kind of fell in our laps. But we know what those big parcels are and what zones they're in. And we should be actively looking for people who want to invest in Pembroke.
Yeah.
Yeah, we don't do that enough.
We absolutely don't.
The other thing is on the affordable housing side, we do have the Affordable Housing Trust, and trying to figure out who the trustees will be and that kind of thing. I know we're going to be talking about it in the bylaw subcommittee meeting tomorrow. So focusing on that as well and how that kind of fits in with the overall master plan and getting us to our 15%. We have done some good things. We have a housing production plan that puts us in, in the running for a affordable housing trust. You have to have the housing production plan and do the trust. We got the trust. There's money there because CPC, Community Preservation Act, gives us money every year towards a affordable housing trust. So there's opportunities there, but it has to be managed.
The housing production plan, is that going to be expiring soon?
That's a good question.
I think it is. It either,
Talked about
Yeah.
I think that was one thing that we talked about, yeah.
It has to be
Like a couple
renewed.
of
Yeah, it has to be updated.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yep. We need to look at that too.
There's, as I like to say, there's so much opportunity for improvement.
Yes.
Did you want to talk about the implementation committee?
Yeah, that's right.
So.
Go ahead, this is your baby of it too. We have nice little debates on master plan.
And you
committee.
So,
microphone.
once the master plan is completed, how do we proceed to make sure it gets implemented? A lot of other towns actually had an implementation committee, basically the master plan committee continuing on and attacking all the goals and objectives. So they, still have all the stakeholders. That way they are kind of keeping the master plan, front and center instead of it, being put to the wayside a little bit.
Well, I'd look for a way that we could maybe dovetail that into current governance. I'm just my opinion. It's kind of hard to have an unelected group of people do the things that we're all supposed to do. We're supposed to be committed to at least referring to the master plan as it relates to zoning, or development, right, as a planning board, so that's really our job as part of what we do. And then just the thought came to my head about an implementation group, you know, advisory does a lot of different things. That may be the place where you say, hey, we have a group of people who already know what's going on. Maybe the master plan is a piece of what they do.
I actually, personally, I really like that idea because I feel like there's more opportunity to leverage the advisory committee. That's a really good idea. One thing that, you know, we have the debate sometimes, and we have different debates about different things, which I think is important. It's good to discuss the issues, figure out which are good, which maybe aren't as good, and we bounce around on different things. But one of the concerns that I had about, you know, having a separate implementation committee is that it wouldn't quite have the teeth necessary
Right.
to hold the different committees and boards
Right.
accountable to it, and the
People-
planning board has a little more teeth to it.
Believe me, people lose interest too.
Yeah,
Right.
yeah.
It's really
Yeah.
hard to keep people engaged in a separate committee for that long, especially after you've spent, you know, a year and a half, 2 years doing the master plan. But if we have other, you know, committees and boards that have responsibilities for very similar things, you know, might want to look there.
Yeah, and just talking about it now, the advisory makes a lot of sense. I feel like they have a lot of capacity and to kind of leverage something like this. And they're the advisory board. They could advise and research what things maybe we could or could not do that are closer versus further away. And instead of
Right.
allowing the political forces in town to kind of guide the roadmap, have some kind of little bit more of an objective standard that they go by and one group that focuses on those things.
So once the plan is adopted, is it going to be on the Pembroke webpage?
Should be.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because I just think it should be easy to find, because I know certain towns, they're really easy to find.
Yeah.
And from a development standpoint, I've used it in going in front of committees and use their own words, you know, and I'm like, oh, well, they want this, and I'm like, all right, well, let me tweak this to go after where they're going. And sometimes sometimes things aren't always easy to find, and that makes it,
Yeah, you
people
wouldn't
won't
always-
use it.
Yeah, you wouldn't always know to go to the planning board to look up the master plan, or maybe, you know. something
Right,
about them.
or even if it's, we put it on like every page, master plan link on every page, you know what I mean? And I know that's kind of redundant, but if it's there, every page you go to, somebody might go, oh, maybe I should look at that.
I agree with you. I'm a big fan of the idea of like out of sight, out of mind.
Yeah.
So if something that should be part of the culture of the government and boards and committees, maybe it should be something that's right there. Residents can go and see and access, developers can go and see and access and be like, oh, go to this town and think of developing in there, what do they want to do? Maybe
Right.
they can jive with that, or,
And so to have it be like front and center, like everywhere, like that, any page you're on, you can find that link, so you're not like, where is that again? Because, you know, when I ran for office for planning board, I'm like, where is the stupid subdivision plan thing? I'm like, why can't I find it on here? And I was getting aggravated at the website myself because I couldn't find it. So,
That search bar a lot.
you know, so having it be able, if we spend all this time and money on it, to be front and center.
Well, that was my point. The implementation committee is like, you want it front and center. You don't want it kind of going to the wayside, you know.
Right.
The town's spending all this money for it.
You don't want it put back on the shelf.
Exactly.
Right.
I don't want to say that, but exactly.
We know what was referred to, so.
Yeah.
Some stuff was done.
yep, yep.
And not to circle back on the recs and the paths and things, but what if like that kind of committee was also implemented into community service and like offering it as a community service? Because like all the high school kids have to do community service hours.
We were doing that, actually, so anytime we did trail
Okay.
cleanings, we invited any of the kids to come out for community
You know,
service.
but push, like, and then that gets families involved, and then families are using it
Yeah.
more, and it just
And
kind
that could
of,
be a nice rec tie-in with an open space. I mean, open space has pretty much done that. I mean.
Right, we
Okay.
just kind of took ownership of it because it just
Yeah.
made sense, because it's
Yeah.
open space. And so I had started for a little while a trail stewardship program, which again, I thought would be something that either the rec department would take over or, but.
Yeah, you need to get a program or two that gets momentum,
Mhm.
and then that stuff starts to happen.
Yeah.
But it's hard to keep that enthusiasm up for, you know, because you have the same people.
Well, you have the same people,
Yeah.
and that's what happens, and that's why I
Yeah.
say I was afraid for open space to take total ownership of it, because depending on who's in the committee, maybe the next group doesn't really want to do that, and then it goes away again, and all of our trails are overgrown again.
right.
So.
Well, that's why I was thinking of it as the high school kids each year, like, the kids are like a new grade, they're
Right.
looking for more community service hours and like making,
That's why it needs to be an official program.
Yeah.
The trail stewardship program needs to be an
Mhm.
official program, not
Agreed.
just a like here and there volunteer kind of thing. We got a lot of student volunteers, they loved it. It was a great way to write off their community service hours, so they did like it. But I think it should be a regular thing. Committee?
yeah.
There was also, like, just in terms of how we went about different things with developing the master plan is, again, we have debates for different things and whatnot, but we felt, a majority of us felt it was very important to avoid lightning rod issues.
Yeah.
And so, not necessarily avoid them, like, oh, don't talk about them, but framing is very important. Making sure that the document is not perceived as a political document in any way on any side of the political spectrum. And so just looking at things objectively. And, you know, for example, you know, we have our natural resources chapter. We all care about our natural resources and things like that. And, you know, there was some discussion that came and some debate around some of the concepts around that. And instead of kind of really going after the lightning rod, we, you know, could point very easily to our hazard mitigation plan that could respond to, you know, different weather effects and things like that as they develop over time. And so that was a very important thing about the way that we went about it as well. And there was a reaction from some in town. They weren't happy about, you know, what might go on there. And so when we had that discussion debate, you know, we went down the road of really avoiding lightning rod issues in that
For
way.
example, we all agree that recycling is a good thing. You know, some people feel like recycling is a climate change thing. We have to do it because of like, we just leave that word out. And yes, we should recycle. Like, we all agree that, right? There's no debate on recycling. There's no debate that we should, you know, prepare for floods or, you know, and you know, whatever, like.
And climate change,
You
yeah,
know,
absolutely.
Climates do change, you know, sometimes it's a 100-year flood zone where of course, we prepare for that, but.
And obviously in taking care of our ponds and environment. So we
Yes.
want to take care of our environment, which is, you know, how we went about everything, so.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, you know, the past couple of weeks have been crazy with the weather.
Yeah.
And, you know, we manage our streams, we manage water flow in town. And we don't have really a centralized way to do that. But because of the history of all of the cranberry bogs and how all the streams and the creeks and ponds work, all of that water can be controlled up or down, and sometimes we have to respond to, you know, severe weather events, especially if there's a lot of precipitation. So
Yeah.
it's a reason why we love living here, is because we've got that natural resource. But if we don't manage it, you know, we'll be replacing culverts all the time, and it has an infrastructure role to play, you know, roads,
Yep.
all of that.
And there's a lot of resources that, you know, the town has already spent a lot of resources on developing, whether you're talking about open space recreation plan, hazard mitigation plan, aspects from the original community development plan as well. Like, we didn't want to reinvent the wheel on some of these things, and so we pulled some high-level issues from these different plans and implemented them in the master plan and referenced the original documents as well, so you could easily know where to find if you want to dig in deeper into the details in some of these plans. Because this shouldn't replace those things, and nor can it be everything everywhere for everyone. It's a relatively high-level document. One thing that's nice about the master plan as well, and, you know, kudos to VHB, the way they went about it, it's a beautiful document. I know these are like black and white, but there's some great color schemes to it too. It's very easy to absorb. It's it's surprisingly readable. You can actually sit back and read and kind of enjoy it. I'm kind of a nerdy geek when it comes to that stuff, so it could be my personality, but I was like, oh, this is actually easy to read, I found.
And understand.
And understand.
You know, like, you understand what the action items are. And
Yeah, absolutely, and it's presented in a very absorbable, very consumable way. And there's some excellent charts, there's some excellent surveys. They took data from the surveys that we did with the towns as well. Excellent maps as well that are very informative, that you can kind of glance at and go through like it as well. So I think the town is really going to appreciate and enjoy this master plan once it's ready.
Awesome. Anyone have any other questions
Will any of you be coming to the public forum?
On the 29th?
on the 29th?
yeah, it'd
February.
be great to have everybody there that could go.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, well, we want to support you with this.
Mm-hmm.
Great.
Yeah, what night of the week is that?
don't even remember.
I'll look on my calendar.
Sure, it's the
29th is a Thursday.
Oh, good.
Okay. Yep.
So does student need to publish that?
That's good.
If we're all gonna be there?
OCPC's on Wednesday.
Yeah, if we're all there.
The last Wednesday of the month, so I was
Yeah.
like, oh wait, please don't be a
She's got,
Wednesday.
yeah, her open meeting law.
So you-
If we're all there, if there's a quorum
There'll be,
expected at that, I'll have to make it like a joint planning board and master plan committee
Okay.
meeting, just so we
To
post an
avoid,
agenda.
yep,
Yeah.
yep, good point.
That is a good point. You're so smart, Andy. Do without. Oh, Heather point, well, she's so
I
quiet.
just say it
Who knows
quietly.
what she says over here? She was like, Heather, you're so smart.
So this is gonna be up next week?
Tomorrow.
Tomorrow.
Great.
It's gonna be
Okay.
Yeah, we
uploaded
would
tomorrow.
access it tomorrow.
Awesome.
So.
Awesome. So I'll have a chance to read it before I go to the meeting.
I'll look forward to reading it.
Yeah, definitely pay attention to the action and goals at the end of every chapter. That's what the meat of it is.
Yeah.
Okay, and that's where we may find out more, what bylaws need to be changed or looked at at least.
Exactly.
Right.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Okay, so it's already in there.
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah, definitely. Any other questions for us?
I
Or
don't.
Thoughts?
I have no.
Input?
This
questions?
early edition is in color, and it was, just flipping through it, I could,
That's
you
right,
could
that
see
was,
the,
yeah.
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 it looked well laid out.
Yeah.
There's a lot more detail in that, the next.
Yeah, well, this one has
And I'm
the,
sure
this is the
tomorrow's
next
will
week.
even have more detail.
Yeah, you'll have more detail
Yeah.
tomorrow, be better.
I'm
Better
excited.
copy. So,
Okay.
all
Well,
right.
thank you guys for coming in. Really appreciate it.
Yeah, thanks for coming in
I
early.
knew Stefan
Absolutely,
wasn't
yeah.
gonna be
Definitely
here, and I'm like,
appreciate that.
Stefan's like, yeah, it's going good. I'm like, come on, give me some more meat.
Yes.
Like, he always tells me it's going well, and that's all I get. So thank you
Not
for
lying, it
coming.
is going well.
It's been fun.
But he doesn't give any details. You guys gave a lot more details. But, you know,
They had
he's
a lot
part
of
of our
work- They
crew.
had a lot of
so-
work to do first, so.
Yeah, exactly. So thank you guys for coming in. Really appreciate it, and
Yeah.
thank you for all your hard work.
Appreciate it. Thank you very much.
Thanks, guys.
Thanks.
Okay. Anything else? This thing? Okay. Do I have a motion?
Motion to adjourn.
second.
What was that?
Second. It didn't actually come out.
Okay, roll call. Andy?
Yes.
Jim? I think
Jim?
he's gone.
Yeah, he's
All
gone.
right, Heather?
Yes.
Scott?
Yes.
And myself, yes. Meeting adjourned.